Good morning, grade 1. Welcome to your math lesson for today. We are doing chapter 9, which is two-digit addition and subtraction. We are starting lesson 9.9, which is about practice time to the hour and half hour. The pages that we will cover today start from page 561 till page 565. Let's look at the objective of our lesson for today. Use the hour hand to draw and write times on analog and digital clocks. Once you have your chapter 9 with you, open your book on page 561. Let's look at this lesson question. Practice time to the hour and half hour. Essential question. How do you know whether to draw and write time to the hour or half hour? Let's look at the question now. Barbara goes to the store at 8 o'clock. Circle the clock that shows 8 o'clock. So we have two clocks here. Which of the two clocks shows the time 8 o'clock? Now if you look at the first clock, you have to notice at the hour hand, the shorter hand is the hour hand and the longer hand is the minute hand. So let's look at the hour hand. In order to show 8 o'clock, the hour hand should be exactly on number 8 at your analog clock. But if you look at this hour hand here, it is in between 8 and 9. So it shows that the time is past 8 o'clock. It has not yet been at 9. So it is not yet 9 o'clock, but it is after 8 o'clock. And if you look at the minute hand, it is pointing at 6 here. So it means 30 minutes have passed after 8 o'clock. So it's 30 minutes past 8 o'clock. And if you look at the second clock here, you will see that the hour hand is directly and exactly pointing at number 8, whereas my minute hand here on this clock is on 12. So it's the whole complete hour. It's exactly 8 o'clock on this clock. So which one of the two clocks show 8 o'clock? It is the second clock here. Okay? Now on the same page 561, let's look at the other part of the same question. It is the practice time to the hour and half hour question. Essential question. How do you know whether to draw or write time to the hour or half hour? Let's look at the other part of the question. Now Barbara takes Ria for a walk at 1:30. Circle the clock that shows 1:30. We have three clocks now. Let's look at each analog clock one by one. The first one here shows 12 o'clock. And why do I say that it shows 12 o'clock? Look at the hour hand. It is pointing at 12. It means it's 12 something. And then you look, the second part is that you have to look at the minutes hand. Look at the minutes hand. It is pointing at 12 as well. It means it's exactly 12 o'clock. The clock is showing exact 12 o'clock. Now let's look at the second clock. Look at the hour hand. It is pointing at 1. So the hour hand is pointing at 1. And the next we look at the minute hand. And the minute hand is pointing at 12. So if the hour hand is 1 and the minute hand is at 12, it means it is showing 1 o'clock. Very good. Let's look at the third one now. Now on this clock you will see that the hour hand is not exactly pointing on any one of the number, but instead it is lying, or it is pointing in between 1 and 2 on this analog clock. So it means it is after 1 but before 2 o'clock. It has already been 1 o'clock and it is after 1 o'clock because it hasn't been 2 o'clock yet. So we're done with the hour hand. Next we are going to look at the minute hand. Look at the minute hand here. It is all the way down to 6. It is pointing on 6. So if the minute hand is at 6, it means how many minutes have passed? It's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And since the hour hand is after 1, so it means it is 1:30. 1:30. Now which of the clock shows 1:30? It is the third clock. Now this clock is showing 1:30 on the clock. Now let's look at page 562. Share and show questions. Use the hour hand to write the time. Draw the minute hand. Now here we have to draw the minute hand. And first of all we are going to look at the hour hand and then we are going to write the time. So let's look at the hour hand first. Is it pointing exactly at number 4? Is it pointing in between number 4 or 5? So that's the first thing we have to notice. And if you see, it is directly pointing at number 4. So the next thing we have to do is we have to draw our minute hand. Now when you are drawing your minute hand, you have to be sure that your minute hand should be longer in length as compared to your hour hand, because minute hand is longer than the hour hand. So here it's our minute hand which is pointing directly at 12. Why is it at 12? Because it's exactly 4 o'clock. Why did we decide that it's 4 o'clock? Because we looked at the hour hand and it pointed straight at number 4 on our analog clock. It was not in between 4 or 5, it was not in between 3 or 4, but instead it was directly at number 4. So we say that it is 4 o'clock on the analog clock. Next we have to write down the time on a digital clock. So we write it like this. We have a 4 and then 00 for minutes, because it is exact 4 o'clock and there are 0 minutes, 4 hours and 0 minutes. It's 4 o'clock. The next question. Now let's look at this hour hand. It is pointing in between number 6 and 7. So it means it has already been 6 o'clock, but it has not yet at 7 o'clock. So it is after 6 o'clock. And then we draw the minute hand at 6 here, because we say it's half past 6 o'clock. Or otherwise we say it is 6:30. 6 is the hour hand and 30 minutes is the 30 minutes that have passed after 6 o'clock. So it's 10, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That's why we write 6:30 here. Let's look at the same page. The share and show questions. Use the hour hand to write the time. Draw the minute hand. We are going to look at more options now. Now if we look at this question 5, we are going to notice on our analog clock the hour hand is pointing at 2. It means it is exactly 2 o'clock. It is not in between 2 and 3. It is not in between 1 and 2. Instead it is directly pointing at 2 here. So we are going to draw the minute hand, which should be longer than the hour hand at 12. So it means the time is 2 o'clock on our digital clock. We write 00 here after 2 because it is exactly 2 o'clock. If this minute hand is pointing somewhere in between here, if it's pointing at the first line here, it means we are going to write 2:01. It's 1 minute past 2 o'clock, but we're not writing it like that because we are only talking about 2 o'clock now, and our minute hand is exactly pointing at 12. So it is 2:00 showing 2 o'clock on the digital clock. Now let's look at the analog clock. The clock's hour hand is in between 3 and 4. It means it has already been 3 o'clock. It is not yet 4 o'clock. So we draw the minute hand, which is pointing at 6, which means 30 minutes have passed after 3 o'clock. And we write it in digital form as 3:30. 3 because it has already been 3. It is not yet 4 o'clock. That's why we write 3, and we write 30 because 30 minutes have passed after 3 o'clock. So the time is 3:30. Moving on page 563, which has on your own questions. Use diagrams. Use the hour hand to write the time. Draw the minute hand. So again we are going to draw the minute hand, but first we are going to look at the hour hand and analyze the time, and after drawing the minute hand we are going to write down the time as well on the digital clock. Now let's look at this question. The hour hand is exactly pointing at 12. It means I'm going to draw the minute hand on 12 as well, because this on my clock shows 12 o'clock. So for the hour we are going to write 12, and then for the minutes we are writing 00 because it's exactly 12 o'clock. Alright, now let's look at question 12. Again, look at your hour hand first. It is in between 5 and 6. It means it's already 5 o'clock. It is not yet 6 o'clock because the hour hand is coming near to number 6, but it is not at 6 yet. So it's after 5 o'clock but before 6 o'clock. So we are going to draw our minute hand on which number then? You all should know it by now. We have to draw it at 6, and make sure whenever you are drawing your minute hand it should be longer than the hour hand. So this time on the clock here is 5:30. It's been 5 o'clock already and the minute hand has moved 30 minutes past 5 o'clock. So we write 5, which is the hour, which is for the hour hand, and 30 here for the minute hand. So it's 5:30. On page 564, let's look at problem solving application questions. Question 14. Vince goes to a baseball game at 4:30. Draw to show what time Vince goes to a baseball game. Now we have analog clock here. We have to show 4:30 on our analog clock. The first hand that we have to draw is the hour hand. It's 4. But you have to see the minute hand as well. It says 4:30. So if it's 4:30, it means my hour hand should be in between number 4 and 5. So here is my hour hand. It is in between 4 and 5. And the next thing I have to do is I have to draw the minute hand. It says 30 minutes. So where will I point my minute hand at on the analog clock? Let's see. It's 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20, 25, 30. So I have to draw a minute hand that should point at 6, and this now shows the time 4:30 on the analog clock. Now on the same page 564, let's look at another problem solving application question. Brandon has lunch at 1 o'clock. Write and draw to show what time Brandon has lunch. Again, we have the analog clock, but this time we have a digital clock as well. So we are going to write the time in digital form as well. We have to show 1 o'clock on the analog clock. So it's 1 o'clock. It means our hour hand should exactly point at 1 to show 1 o'clock. And if we want to show exact 1 o'clock, where should our minute hand point at? It should point at 12. Make sure, students, you are drawing both hands in the right form. The hour hand should be a little shorter than the minute hand. Alright? Look here. The hour hand is shorter than the minute hand. The hour hand is pointing at 1 and the minute hand is pointing at 12. And this exactly shows 1 o'clock. This one is the hour and 00 are the minutes. Okay? So it's 1 o'clock on the digital clock as well. Now on page 564, let's look at another question. Yuan tried to show 8:30. He made a mistake. What did Yuan do wrong? Explain his mistake. Now he had to show 8:30. Let's look at the mistake that he did. Now we have been shown only the hour hand on the clock. It means he did something wrong while showing 8:30. And he drew the hour hand wrong somehow. What did he do wrong? Let's see. Now if you notice on the clock at the hour hand, it is in between 7 and 8. But the time that he had to show was 8:30. So 8:30 means 8 is already there. It's already 8 o'clock and it's 30 minutes past 8 o'clock. So the hour hand should not be in between 7 and 8. Instead, it should be in between 8 and 9 because it's already 8 o'clock and it's 30 minutes past 8 o'clock. So the hour hand should be in between 8 and 9, 30 past 8 o'clock. It's not yet 9, it's just 8 o'clock and 30 minutes more, 30 minutes past 8 o'clock. So we are going to write he showed 7:30. Why 7:30? Because it's after 7 but before 8. It's This clock here shows that it's 30 minutes past 7 o'clock. He had to show 30 minutes past 8 o'clock. To show 8:30, the hour hand is between 8 and 9. So to show 8:30, the hour hand should be between 8 and 9. That's the mistake that he made. Now your homework is you have to do page 565. Thank you very much, grade 1, for joining in for your math lesson. I hope you understood your lesson well. Make sure you complete all the questions on the given pages. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Bye.